we're going to do is talk about, LinkedIn's key features and how to leverage them the best. I mean, when it comes to your resume, you don't, not everybody can see it, but this is a chance on LinkedIn is for you to be seen by everyone, by recruiters, by company targets and so forth. So it's really important that you kind of optimize your profile as much as possible, not only to be seen, but once you are seen, that you're communicating the right information. So let's take a look at what we need to do to our LinkedIn profile. The first piece of it is really thinking once again about your executive brand. How does this fit into my whole networking strategy and so forth? Once again, your resume isn't going to be available for everyone to see, but your LinkedIn is. So if you're looking for a way to be able to communicate who you are, what is really important to you, what you're looking for, as well as being able to tell your story throughout this, LinkedIn is really the platform for you to do that on. It's also a great place for you to focus on the value that you can add to an organization. Not only talking about in terms of what you've done in the past, but also what you can do and expect to do in the future. And then, of course, your whole content is to support those claims. You want to align this around this value that you created to show that you've demonstrated these abilities in the past and how you can go forward with them. Next slide, please. So we're going to start at the top, what you see on your LinkedIn profile, and work our way down. We're going to start off by looking at what is the first thing that comes up when you look at your LinkedIn profile or someone pulls up your profile. It's going to be your banner and your headshot, typically from that standpoint. Once again, just like BlueSteps, a headshot on your LinkedIn profile is important. It just makes it a little bit more personal. It shows that you put a little extra time into this. So you want to make sure that this is also a professionally done headshot. Now, you can get a good headshot from your phone camera today, so it's not like you have to go book studio time or anything else, but some people like to do that. That's perfectly fine too, but you want to make sure that it's got a nice neutral background, it's clear, it's concise, it's presenting your professional image that you want. Regarding the background picture, that's the image that's right in back of your headshot. This is as a default, just basically, you probably have all seen it. It's a banner of 3 blue-gray bars that go across the screen and so forth. While this area is not searchable, it sure makes an impression when a recruiter or someone pulls up your profile. If it's just the standard blah background that everybody else has on LinkedIn, you're going to melt into the background. This is your chance to stand out. So you can put a custom image up there. It can be uploading a photo. One of the things I talk about with my clients is make it something that ties into possibly your personal brand as far as your industry or an expertise that you have, or it can tell a little bit of your story. So if it's a location that you're really fond of, or where you're currently located and has more of that, or even if it's just a background image just to break up that monotonous white space that's on your LinkedIn profile, it's always good to have. Some people like to customize this with, putting some branding statements in it and doing a little bit more detail, which you absolutely can do. The only cautionary note there is there's nothing on this image that is searchable. So if you are putting all of your information in your banner and so forth, realize that those keywords are not going to come up as part of the search. That needs to be done also in the headlines and so forth, which we're going to talk about next. One of the most important pieces of your entire LinkedIn profile is what we call your headline. This is the text that goes on right beneath your name. It is heavily indexed, meaning that the keywords, the words that you put in there, are going to be utilized by anyone that's going to be utilizing what's called the LinkedIn Recruiter tool when they're doing a search. You can have up to 220 characters in this headline. That's expanded from the 110 that it used to be. And you want something that is very informative, very value communicating. you want to make sure that the right keywords are in here. So if we take a look at a couple examples, the default is your basic most recent or current position that you have on LinkedIn. So it gives the title and the company, and that's it. This gives you the ability to come in and really customize this with keywords. So instead of just saying, I'm an SVP of marketing for personal care products line, I can talk about SVP marketing, consumer products, omni-channel strategies, business development, and even put in some numbers if you wanted to, that 45% growth delivered. Or a lot of people like to put a vertical slash, in this, or excuse me, a horizontal slash in this, and talk about, keywords: customer focused cloud transformation, enterprise technology, solutions leader, strategic planning, business transformation, all of these things. These would be the keywords that you want to define and are part of your executive brand that need to be part of that headline. Next slide, please. From here, we're going to talk about the open to section. In that same opening area, you're going to see a section where it says open to finding a new job and so forth. And this is going, when you click on this, it's going to open up what's called your job preferences tab. Now, this is important. This is something that not the average person on LinkedIn is going to be able to see. This is kind of the back end that's going to drive some of the search results. So filling this out is extremely important. So for example, the job titles that is the very first part of this job preferences, LinkedIn allows you to put into 5 distinct job titles or targeted titles in here. I recommend that you max that out, that you include all 5 in that. And they can be broad. So if you're looking at, yes, I might be looking for a C-level position, or I might be looking for a VP or a senior director, depending on the size of the business and company that you're targeting, then you might want to have that title, each one of those titles in there as well. Your workplace and locations. A lot of times we want to say, are we open to on-site? Are we open to hybrid? Are we open to remote? All of the above. What is your preference from that? And the actual location itself, it will pull information from your profile to pick up your local town and so forth. But if you want to look at the greater area that's around that town, then you want to make sure that that is also specified. Or especially if you're open to remote positions, you may want to say North America, you want to say all US, you may want to name your country. Whatever that might be, you want to make sure that is well defined, because that is also going to help you come up in the searches when those are done. When you're looking at the next part, which is your start date, you can be either immediately actively applying or you can be flexible. So this is just really kind of just communicates your level of intensity as far as where you are in your job search and so forth. So that is up to you and your comfort levels. You also have a point for your job type, whether it's full-time, contract, part-time, and you can select more than one. The last thing on this part is really important, which is who can see that you're open, who can actually see and leverage this criteria and so forth. You're given 2 choices. You can either have all LinkedIn members, which actually puts a little open to work badge on your picture, or you can be open to recruiters only. My personal suggestion is you want to do recruiters only. What that really means is that someone has to be using the LinkedIn recruiter tool to be able to do a keyword search to find your profile. Now, recruiters are going to use that, whether they're executive search firms or whether they're corporate recruiters, they're all going to be utilizing that tool to do that. You don't want to necessarily put this for all open to work, for all members to see that. I will tell you at an executive level, it's a little tacky to have the open to work thing on your profile. And a lot of times we don't want to broadcast, once again, that we are open to look, because a lot of us are doing this casually as well. So using the recruiters only is going to guarantee that no one else from your company is necessarily going to get the idea that you're doing a job search. Okay, Lisa, next slide, please. After you get done with your opening section, it's going to be an about. And a lot of people will say, well, this is a place where I can take the summary from my resume and I can add it in here. And what I say is you absolutely can do that, but this is much more than that. This is a chance for you to tell your own personal story a little bit here. How did you come about this? What are your areas of passion and interest? What are the areas that you can truly add value? So you can have a little bit of a narrative. This is an opportunity to put in some areas of expertise to really kind of hone in on what that executive brand is and the value that you can create and add. Typically, I like to see this section in more of a first person, in a personal. You can do it in third person. There's nothing wrong with that. But once again, this is a chance for you to kind of show more that your human side, that I am a real person. I'm not just a bunch of words on a page, so to speak. So this is also your chance to put in some additional information that I'm not necessarily going to have on my resume. You know, you may want to talk about a passion project or what really gets you excited about your industry. This would be an opportunity for you to use this. So think about this more as not just a resume summary, but a conversation starter for to get things going for your LinkedIn profile. Next, we jump into the experience section. So first, we want to talk about what we call the missing company logo. A lot of times when you type in your company and so forth, hopefully your company has a LinkedIn page, they've uploaded their logos and so forth. Sometimes you're going to find your company's actually in there several times. So you're going to want to make sure that you're choosing the right one. But it's always important to see if you can have that logo. Why? Because as you can see from the example on the screen, the first one doesn't have a logo, the second one does. It just makes a little bit nice impression to stand out. If your company doesn't have a LinkedIn logo page or so forth, you can actually create one. So, I mean, there's an opportunity for you to be able to upload that image in there if you want to. You're looking for in your summary of your experience and your positions and so forth. This is really a high level focus. We're not asking you to go into all of the details that you went into your resume. This is more the big picture. What have you done for the organization? What can I offer? So you don't necessarily have to have a lot of numbers in this section. It's more about the strategic, high level accomplishments and business transformation and so forth that you're able to do. The other thing we want to make sure of is that the information is what we call, the really important stuff is what we call above the fold. If you look at the first example on the top of the page, where you can see that only about 4 lines will show up on the screen until you hit the See More button. Well, you always want to make sure that that beginning piece is going to be something that is going to intrigue someone enough to say, I want to know more, and hit the See More so they can see all the details that are on that page. Next slide, please. The other thing that we want you to think about is when you use numbers or sensitive information on LinkedIn, remember, this is not like your resume. This is going out to a lot of different places. So we usually tell people that, you know, I don't encourage people to use, you know, specific numbers. Using rounded numbers or using percentages for increases and so forth, you know, that's probably a little bit easier. The other part of this is you don't want to paint a negative picture, you know, of your employer. So if the numbers don't look impressive, if you're really trying to get into a larger size company, this may not benefit you to use them on your LinkedIn profile. So be careful what you talk about here. You don't need to talk about the reason that you're looking, you know, anything like that in your experience section. This should all be focused in on what you were able to accomplish in that specific role. From there, we get into the education, your certifications, and additional information sections. Once again, logos are important in this area. It adds a little bit of that color and pop to your page. So if you can, once again, as you're choosing the schools that you've attended and so forth, you will find that I think just about every school out there has a logo and has a page already up in that so that you can put up there. You do want to make sure you include what's relevant though. So if you've taken a couple classes at a local community college recently, is that as much important as your MBA that you have? Well, of course not. So you don't want to necessarily put everything as far as what you might have in your resume in here. You can keep this to your highlights from that standpoint. You definitely want to put in any license or certifications. If you don't have these sections in your current profile, you just go to the very top of your LinkedIn, you say add a profile section, you'll see the opportunity to be able to add license and certifications and then fill in the prompts from there. The one thing we talk about as far as organizations, volunteer memberships, and so forth is you need to understand that if these are things that you're proud of, that really showcase your skills and your abilities and your talents, then it's worth having on your LinkedIn page. However, we do caution, just like we'd caution on a resume, you may want to be careful about whether something is a political affiliation or organization or organized religion or other areas. Not saying that you can't have this on your profile, but knowing that if you do, some people could judge you by it. So we do say you want to take that in consideration when you're looking at what do I include as far as memberships, volunteer organizations, and so forth.